Hello, everybody. This is Dr. Fasil Fanta, your instructor for microeconomics. This is Unit 9 seminar lecture recording. I might have told you that I will be traveling for a conference overseas, and I may face some limitation on connections and time differences and so on and so forth. So I am planning to record the last two seminars for you to review instead of having a live seminar with you. So I'm gonna go ahead and give you credit for the upcoming two seminars for your participation credit. I'm not penalizing anybody, but I encourage everybody to review these lecture videos for the next 2 weeks, okay? And if you have any question, please send me email. I'll try to respond. If it is a little bit late, I hope you understand. It will be overseas and time differences and also internet connection problems. So I request you to be patient with me for the next 2 weeks. But here you go. I'm going to record these two videos and share with you. But in the meantime, any concern, any question, I will address that and respond to your emails. And I will grade everything. If some of you did not submit some of the assignment yet, please go ahead, at least for partial credit. By the end of this term, everything will be graded and submit the grade on time. So no worries, even if I'm overseas, no worries. I will take care of it, and let me know if you need anything, okay? So let's briefly discuss chapter 13 on a monopoly. And if you remember our discussion of profit maximization in perfect competition, very easy one. And any other market structure, profit maximization is compared with the perfect competitions as a benchmark, okay? So we'll see how monopoly operates and compared to perfect competition. So in this case, we'll characterize what monopoly is and some of the basic principles of profit maximization in the monopoly market structures. And I think you'll find the graphs and examples would be very helpful to learn more about it. Let's get started. So as you remember, we have four basic market structures: perfect competition, monopoly, oligopoly, and monopolistic competitions. We covered perfect competitions, and this chapter we'll talk about monopoly, and chapter 10 we'll be talking about oligopoly in most cases, and some maybe aspect of monopolistic competitions. And the final exam is more or less 50% monopoly, 50% oligopoly. So you will be in a perfect condition if you study these three market structures: perfect competition, monopoly, and oligopoly for the final exam. So if you look at the different market structure spectrums and look at it in terms of product differentiations in this market and how many producers are there, monopoly, as you can expect, there is only one producer and there is no market product differentiation, because that's the only company and industry in that market. So it is the same. So monopoly cases are one producers with no product differentiations because there's no need. There is no substitute product. There's no competitive businesses. So a very simple case. If you're looking at oligopoly, it's more or less there are few producers, but product differentiations could be happening or not happening. It can be differentiated product or it can be similar kind of product. Perfect competitions, as you can expect, there is no product differentiations. Products are the same, but there are many producers in the market. And in the right hand lower corner, you see monopolistic competitions when there is some form of product differentiations, but there are many producers exist in the market. So monopolistic firm is a firm that only produces a good with no close substitute, as I explained. Market power, yes, they have the ability to raise prices. They have price makers rather than price takers, as in the case of perfect competitions. So when you compare the price charged by a monopoly versus perfect competition, a monopoly charge higher prices, if you look at the point M, and produces less QM compared to perfect competitions. In a perfect competition, you expect more production at the lower prices, which pretty much expected. So what are the barriers of entry in these monopoly structures? What are the factors that contributes to or the arise of monopolies? First is the control of natural resources. Okay, if one company dominates in one input of production, they have a monopoly. Or they may have increasing return to scale, which means as they go bigger, the production cost falls, then they enjoy lower cost production, and they are able to provide goods for a cheaper product compared to new businesses that cannot afford really to charge that low prices, and they can't compete with these existing businesses. So we call this a natural monopoly, a monopoly that arises due to return to scale, or maybe technological superiority, or even the government sometimes made barriers by providing patents and copyrights. And these are some sources of monopoly. Most textbooks mention De Beers as a diamond production company, which used to dominate the whole market, the whole supply chain, I would say, in 90s, maybe 80s, but not any longer. So, as I said, a natural monopoly is the result of the economies of scale, which is mostly more interested to study such monopoly cases, which arises due to return to scale. As you can see, when there is more production in the x-axis, the average total cost is actually is falling, right? As you see, it's falling. The purple color is falling within the range of some outputs, which means a monopoly exists as they become bigger and reduces the cost of production, and they are able to provide goods at a lower price, which their competitors cannot match it, so they stay away. Sometimes network externality is also mentioned as a source of a monopoly. Facebook is mentioned here because if I have a Facebook account and none of you have one, then there is no point for me having a Facebook. So it becomes more valuable the more people that have these services. So network externality can actually reaches a large segment of the populations, and the company become a dominant force and become a monopoly. Patents and copyrights also some barriers of entry and creates a monopoly. Now let's see and compare competitive markets and a monopoly. As you remember, the price in the competitive market is determined by demand and supply. So market price is given. That's why you see a blue straight horizontal graph, which is also the demand curve, which is also the price, which is also the marginal revenue curve. If somebody asks you how much to produce in a competitive market, you remember the principles. The principle is that you need to produce at the point where the marginal revenue equal to the marginal cost. We covered that before. So if you have a cost information here, you can simply determine how much to produce. But a monopoly case, it faces a downward graph demand curve, because that's the market and also industry by itself, because there is no other businesses exist except the monopoly. So they faces a firm in a perfect competition, and a monopoly and a monopoly case, a monopolist and a monopoly case faces different demand functions. That's worth to know, because it has some implication on how much to produce and how much to charge, and so on and so forth. So all firms in different market structure faces the same rule. Don't forget this. MR equal to MC is a profit maximization rule. This is where you need to find out how much to produce. Let's see. First, maybe we can have it take a look at this graph, this table. Look, the price for a monopoly faces from $1,000 to $500, but this is not the case for perfect competition. Perfect competition, the price should be all the same, but here the prices are different, and the monopoly should determine how much to charge, basically. So price, the first column, times the quantity in the second column will give you the total revenue, which is the third column. First times the second column will give you the third column, which is total revenue. To get the margin revenue, it's very simple. See, you go back and subtract from the previous value to the total revenue, like 950 minus 100 is 950. 1800 minus 950 is 850, that kind of thing. So easy to find out the margin revenue. Why we find margin revenue? Because we want to see where this margin revenue curve intersect with marginal cost, then we decide how much to produce. Simple. So since the main discussion of this chapter will be profit maximization for a monopoly, you need to know there are two steps. First, choose a quantity. How do I choose a quantity? How much a monopoly should produce? Very simple, right? We already said that. MR equal to MC. Choose a quantity that equates MR equal to MC. Second, choose a price. See, this is how it's different from a perfect competition. Perfect competition, you take the price as given. Here, you have to choose, which maximizes your profit. How you do that? Choose the highest price you can get away with, because you are the only business in town, which is the highest price consumers will pay for that quantity. Okay? So graphically, I think it makes really, really sense when you look at the graph. Here we go. For example, we have the demand curve. You have the marginal curve, margin revenue curve. So how much to produce? A graph is missing. We need marginal cost. Here you go. The red one here is a marginal cost, is also average total cost, just an assumption. Then point A in the middle, you see that the MR crosses MC. Then the monopoly would determine how much to produce, which is in this case 8 units. But how much to charge? You may probably wondering and say 200. No, not 200. At the quantity 8, a monopoly knows how much people are willing to pay. They have to go all the way up to the demand curve and charge about $600. 200 is a competitive price. So a monopoly will charge the maximum you are willing to pay. In this case, the demand curve, which is another name for this is a willingness to pay curve. So they will charge $600 and they will enjoy a profit of $400 per unit. That's why they are making money. And because the price $600 is above the average total cost curve, then you are making a profit. The total profit may be 8 times 8 quantity, and per unit profit is 400, 600 minus 200. So 400 times 800, then you have about $3,200 profit for a monopoly. Simple case, because if it is a perfect competition, the production will be 16, as you can see at point C, and charges $200. Cheaper, more production. Monopoly, low production, higher price. Very intuitive, very simple to see. So if you take another case where average total cost curve is, in fact, below the price where the monopoly charges, now you're still making a profit. Because look, point C where the average total cost curve is, this is where the production would be. The cost would be ATCM and the y-axis. The price is PM, so there's a difference. So as long as the price is above the average total cost, you're making a profit. If it is equal with the price, then break even. If price is below the average total cost, you lose money. And the price is below average variable cost, you shut it down. So you should be remembering the 4 basic principles, and I'm going to wrap it up. First, if the price you are charging is equal to average total cost, break even. If the price is above average total cost, you're making profit. If the price is below average total cost, you are losing money. If the price is below average variable cost, you shut it down. That is a very basic principles that you need to know on top of the principle that I told you about how much to produce, which is determined by MR equal to MC. I hope you have some idea about the difference between a monopoly and a perfect competitions and how profit maximization is conducted in these 2 different market structures. I will cover oligopoly, a very interesting topic for the last unit, and I hope you enjoy this discussion. Please let me know if you have any questions. Thank you very much.